You've just driven up Ridge Road from downtown Cherryfield, and Ridge Road is a large end moraine, and end moraines are formed, as you can read on the map. End moraines are big ridges of glacial material formed along the ice margin. The material is brought forward and drops off the margin. In this case, the margin happens to be standing in the ocean. I can't prove that here, but it was. And so this is formed at the point where the margin of the ice starts to go afloat in the ocean. It's a ridge, a long ridge, and so forth. Now, we turned at right angles to that ridge and came over here into an area. This whole area is referred to as Big Rock Ridge, and it's owned by the Wyman Blueberry Company. You have to ask permission to come in here, but usually they will do that as long as you guarantee that you won't do any damage to the blueberries. The significance of this area is that it's a whole series of these ice marginal moraines formed at the point where the ice goes afloat. And there's one over here to the my left, and there's one to my right, and there are about 10 or 15 more in both directions. And these are all parallel to the Ridge Road moraine that you just came along. You notice the spacing of them, and the fact that they're all covered with big boulders of granite in this case. And what the interpretation is, the ice margin was retreating towards the northwest. And I might say at this point, ice does not move backwards. The position of the margin may move forward or backwards, because the ice is always internally moving forward, dynamically forward, and then there's the forces of melting that balance against that. And if the forces of melting exceed the rate of forward motion of the ice margin recedes, or it goes the other direction if the forces of melting decrease and the others remain constant. So what we have here is an ice marginal recession going on, and the ocean is to my left, to the south, and this is the ice side of things. So right now we're looking at this ridge right directly behind us over here, and we're looking at the side of the moraine that was facing the ocean. The other side of it was up against the ice. You turn and look over here, this side is the side that was up against the ice, and the side away from the ice is on the other side. So we have a whole series of these that are very, very closely spaced, and it may be that what we're looking at here is an annual event. In other words, in the winter, when the melting is at a decrease, the ice margin may move forward and form a moraine. In the summertime, when it's warmer, the melting will increase and the margin will recede. And then winter comes again and you do this. But that may not be the case, but it probably is the case. And they're so evenly spaced that it looks like they may be annual events, but you can't really prove that. If we could radiocarbon date these things exactly, we might be able to see that, but we can't do that. Now, as they went back, as the margin went back and each of these moraines formed, the ocean followed in. And into that ocean came the meltwater again with the sand and gravel and boulders, and sand and gravel at least. The boulders were transported to the front of the glacier because the glacier is moving forward, and they just fell off. So the moraine represents a hesitation, more or less, of the position of the margin. The boulders just all fell off like a conveyor belt. Then it goes back pretty fast, and there was probably a layer of boulders underneath this, but as it went back, the sea came in against the ice, and a lot of rock, pulverized rock flour, sort of like sandpaper dust that came from the making of striations and so forth on ledge, is locked up in the base of the ice. And that stuff washes out as fine-grained mud and settles down in the deeper part. So much of the area here where you don't see any boulders is marine mud. And then the ice drops off another moraine and the ice goes back and the water is still muddy and it's depositing stuff. Eventually, the sea level drops to where it is today, and the tops of the sea level comes down to the tops of these moraines and wave washes them and winnows the fine stuff out and down into the areas in between again, leaving a lot of boulders really perched up on the ridges. That's why we have either the concentrations of rock having fallen off the margin, but also they left there because the fine stuff has been removed by wave action. In places, these moraines represent the Pineau Ridge readvance, and you can read about that. And in places, the ice pulsated and piled them in, one right after the other, and makes a very large, big feature called, well, it's like the, an accordion. It's closed. In other places, the accordion is open, and so the individual moraines are spread out more like they are here. But it all represents the Pineau Ridge readvance at about 15,300 calendar years ago. And you can read about this readvance as a climate event in your map. This is an area of blueberries. And if you don't know the story of blueberries, the blueberry bush grows the first year and there are no berries on it. The second year it has berries, and they harvest the berries, and then after the harvest the area is mowed down with a big mowing system. They used to burn it, but they eliminate the bushes that the berries came from. The berries propagate underground, the bushes. The following year, then, the burning or the weed whacking of the surface gets rid of all of the blueberry bushes, but also all of the non-blueberry bushes. So the next year, the blueberries come up again. The other bushes don't necessarily. And the first year, they don't have any berries. The second year, they do have berries, and then the process starts all over again. I'm standing in a patch. This is the second year for the berries. Last year this patch had no berries. Now it has berries, and within a few weeks they're going to be picked. This is private land, and so if you come in here, stay on the road, don't walk on the blueberries, and don't pick the blueberries unless you have permission from the Wyman Company. And you can call the Wyman Company using the telephone on the sign down at the end of the road and ask if you can come in here. They certainly will probably let you, but please recognize that blueberries are the bread and butter of this region, and they don't want them damaged in any way. So you have no right to pick blueberries.